Welcome to the Bush League Huddle. I'm Raj. There's Fab. There's Nacc. And it is a scorching hot day in Montreal today. I think we're going to get to somewhere around 37 degrees Celsius. We're recording this on June 17th. And yes, I am wearing a Three Lion shirt. I will not sing God Save the Queen, but we're very happy to be with you guys
King.
today.
God save the king.
You can't even get that right. Fuck.
Calls
God,
himself an
it's,
England fan.
God save the
Jesus.
it's God save
Th-
the Queen.
They change it
No, it's change it. They
after.
change it
Yeah,
when
they
the king
change it.
is.
Yeah.
It's the
Oh,
king now, so it's
guys,
God
it's
save the king.
It's
guys.
because we
No,
never knew a different one because
Yeah,
she was queen for like
no,
97
no,
years.
no, no, no,
yeah.
no. I don't
No,
want
no,
to hear
no.
this.
It's God save the king.
No, it's
I
not. No, I don't want to hear it either. But apparently,
Fuck them all. Fuck them all.
whenever you watch England play, you gotta listen to that dumbass national anthem.
No, I mute the TV.
I digress. We have a really fun show today. We have some news and noise from the past week in the NFL. And then we have our V1 mock draft where we're going to go through a mock draft that we just did not too long ago. We're going to mimic the draft order in our Bush League. In our Bush League with our buddies, so that'll be very interesting. We'll see, why certain people chose certain players. But to start it off, we have Jeff Miller of the LA Times who thinks Ladd McConkey is next in line to be Justin Herbert's new favorite target. Herbert was quoted as saying, "It's like he's been a 4 or 5 year vet." Herbert said of McConkey at the end of minicamp. "He understands the game. He understands leverage. He's a smart player. He's very athletic. I'm really looking forward to getting him the ball." Currently, ESPN PPR has a pre-draft ranking of 47 with regards to McConkey, next to Mooney, Odunze, Judy, Jacoby Myers. FYI, Josh Palmer is ranked 52nd, his teammate. News or noise, Nacc, that Ladd is going to be the number one target in LA.
Yeah, to me, this is definite news. They lost Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, two guys that command a lot of targets. And look, Allen on his own last year had 150 targets. I know that obviously Mike Williams was hurt, but if you check his previous year, Williams was at 93 targets in 2022. So they've lost a lot of target share. And they go get a guy like Ladd McConkey, who's looks to be the next best thing, really, wide receiver wise. I think they got him at a perfect spot in the draft. And then you look at a guy right now like Josh Palmer, who's the number one wide receiver right now on the depth chart, number one in quotations, but he doesn't move the needle for me at all. Like Josh Palmer is not a guy that you think of as your prototypical WR1 peppered with targets type deal. And Quentin Johnson looked terrible in his first season. And before I see anything more, until I see something out of him, I think McConkey comes in right away and takes over a huge target share. He's one of those guys where he's the QB's best friend, amazing hands, so doesn't drop a lot of balls. So definitely wouldn't shock me at all if he's Herbert's favorite target early and often.
You just described the prototypical white slot wide receiver.
Yeah, yeah. It's just he honestly, but he looks like
Lunch pail,
Wes Welker
lunch
type
pail
deal. Like he
guy,
just kind of looks like the guy who's going to eat up like
coach's
move.
son.
Yeah, like possession type of receiver, like sure hands guy, right? Like he's not going to drop the ball. You're the guy you look for on third downs to move the chains. He's just that he looks, and like you said, he described him as a 4 or 5 year vet, and I don't know, people. He had high praise coming out of college, and a lot of people think he should have been drafted higher than he was.
Fab, what do you think?
I don't disagree with any of that. I think the comments are super telling. The comments by Justin Herbert are super telling. Not hit on all the right points, especially in regards to the targets. There's like somewhere between 300, 250 or 300 targets that are vacated ever since Eckler's gone, ever since Keenan Allen, Williams, all these guys, right? All the people that you just mentioned. So, like it or not, there's going to be volume to spread. I'm not saying he's going to get even 30% of those targets necessarily, but that would be there's a very high potential of that happening. He's in a good spot. There's opportunity there, and he is a good player. And they went after him on purpose. They knew that they had a need at wide receiver. I'm referring to the Chargers now, and they drafted him purposely in the second round. So I think they probably know what they already have with Quentin Johnson, and I think they're looking for that complementary receiver in that sense. Maybe the lad being there was going to open up more lanes for Quentin Johnson or just the offense in general. And I think a ranking of 47 is not crazy. Um, I mean, I see him potentially, if like we're talking about pre-draft ranking and all that, like where I would have him. He would give me some wide receiver 4 vibes with wide receiver 3 upside on a week-to-week basis. Could he pop and turn into Cooper Cup? Sure. Puka Nacua? Sure. But just by what I'm,
Any black wide receiver comparisons?
is there, name me a black slot wide receiver.
Jacoby Myers, who's
Exactly. So
right there.
who's being ranked right after him.
That's crazy. Jacoby Myers being ranked that low is nuts, man.
But that's
He was
also that's also a
fantastic.
factor of the quarterback too, though. Like he
He's-
had a good year last year, but I think it's also a factor of the quarterback for Jacoby Myers being back that down. I
you
don't like that ranking either.
you
But when you name the guys ahead of him, mm, like it's hard to have an argument about anyone else before him being taken. I would
I like Josh Palmer, guys. I don't know. Like I thought he looked pretty
Nah.
good.
no.
He looked solid when he was playing.
And as your number one,
He's a
No,
jag. He's a jag.
he's 38 catches, 581 yards, 15 yards per catch. I'm not saying
Roger.
he's a star. Hold on, I'm not saying he's a star, but I think Quentin Johnson totally fair.
Yeah.
But I think just we need to slow down with rookies with assuming right away that rookies
Yes.
always are going to come in and take over. And I think Josh Palmer, even his first season, 72 catches, 769 yards, he's a solid player. So I think let's not take that for granted.
solid 100%. But we're talking about if is Herbert going to like someone above someone else, right? Yeah, Josh Palmer's there. He knows the offense, but he did talk, like you said. You just read the statement. He's raving about this guy, and it's not crazy to think wide receivers come in and don't dominate, right? Like Justin Jefferson was taken what 26th overall, right? Like okay, I'm not comparing him to Justin Jefferson, but I'm just trying to say 26th overall. McConkey was taken what 7 picks later, so it's not out of the realm of possibility this guy comes in, jumps in right away, and takes over, right? He's
I
kind of
think
drafted in that same.
I think he's in a very good spot to succeed. And I think Herbert having a new toy like that will put an emphasis on him because Herbert obviously played with Josh Palmer. He played with Quentin Johnson, kind of knows what he has. And I think these stats and these conversations and these quotes are very, very telling. And whenever I hear a quarterback say these types of things, for me, my ears perk up a little bit more than usual because if the quarterback likes you, you're going to get the ball more. And we've seen that time and time again in how many offenses, right? Like obviously a Tom Brady offense comes to mind, or Aaron Rodgers. Like if he trusts you and if he likes you, you're going to get the ball more. So I think it's something that it's 100% news for me.
I'll leave you guys with a little stat and a little flashback to 2011. That was when Jim Harbaugh, was coach of the Niners. There was a rookie wide receiver in 11 games. He caught 48 catches, 625 yards, and 2 TDs. That was a 65 catch, 900 yard, and 5 TD pace. Do you guys remember who this is?
So when he was coaching for the Niners, I guess.
Yeah.
I want to say Michael Crabtree.
Bingo.
Yeah.
And what Crabtree had was he was a good blocker.
Wait, hold on a second. What do I win? Like, do you change shirt now?
Is that what the audience? Is that what the audience wants?
Give us what the audience wants.
Similar skill set, possession receivers, not guys who are winning downfield, both capable and willing blockers. And I think if there's an argument for McConkey, for some reason we always add an L. It's actually McConkey, and I keep adding one too. But I think the argument for McConkey is that he's a good blocker, and that keeps him on the field in a Jim Harbaugh offense. So I have some. I'm positive about his outlook, but I think I wouldn't discredit Josh Palmer too quickly. Now,
No, not discredit. No discrediting. There's no discrediting Josh Palmer. But the question was, can he command more of a target share? And I think he can.
I mean, the question was he the number one target in LA? And I think it's tough to assume all rookies will be the number one target, but
No, they won't. 100%.
Yeah,
they won't.
so I think it'll be interesting to see. Fab, you wanted?
I just want to touch on a point that you said earlier about how everyone's getting rookie wide receiver happy. I agree with you, and because especially with the top 3 guys that did go in the draft this year, and then like the Keon Colemans of the world and Xavier Leggett and all that. It is easy to be excited about these new guys coming in. Uh, so I do agree with you in that sense, but I think this is very like I would be slightly higher. Like if Ladd has a good season, I wouldn't be surprised. Whereas Keon Coleman having a good season would surprise me more. And I know, like, same thing, like he's in
Would
that
surprise you
offense.
more, really?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm not as hyped up about Keon Coleman. I don't want to diverge the conversation too much, but like I'm not as hyped up about Keon Coleman in that offense as much as like here it's high risk and low reward in this scenario with Ladd McConkey, right? Because where he's going in drafts and everything, Keon Coleman, you draft him as like maybe wide receiver 20 or 25, you can get burned with that, right? Because you're
Yeah.
Yeah,
looking
but
at
you're
like
not
an
drafting
I
every
him
think
like
week
there's I think
yeah.
there's a whole other conversation that happens with regards
for
to
sure.
like you said, who's the QB. Keon Coleman will have a higher outlook theoretically because of the QB.
I agree.
But I think let's park this one. I think we'll have more time to discuss some of these rookie wide receivers in the coming weeks. This week, Travis Kelce told the media, "Wear and tear me, baby. I'm ready for it. Put the load on me."
I
Pause.
love it.
Pause.
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 Big pause.
Big
That's
pause. I did love that he was
is
wearing a T-shirt that just said "bodacious" on it, like super random.
He's
But
the fucking best.
I love that.
is that
But
what he tells Taylor Swift? Put the load on me, or is it the opposite?
Oh boy.
I mean, we don't judge. If it is, we're an inclusive podcast. What are we not?
I don't know what to
Explicit,
say.
you mean?
Can we believe something, or is it too late now? Hey, moving on.
No, but
Bodacious, yes.
I did get I did like the feedback about us swearing less, and I will personally make an effort to swear less during
I
our
will also
podcast.
refrain from using the F word.
Yes. But going back to the original topic, Kelsey, I think he played his fewest snaps in the past 3 years. He looked down last year. Obviously, he had the calf injury. Is it news or noise him leading the Chiefs in targets in 2024, Fab?
I think it's news. I think he still has a pretty good shot of leading the team in targets. And a lot of that has to do with the fact of all the uncertainty that exists with Rashee Rice. To be honest, I think, and I know we're very early on, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but there hasn't been necessarily any confirmation about whether he's going to miss any games or not. But I think that has to play. Like if the guy plays a full season, now, no, 100%. I think Rashee Rice will actually take the lead in targets this year.
There's no
Because,
way he plays a full season.
well, that's exactly what I'm saying, right? I mean, if he misses 4 games, no, I think
Half,
it's going to be
probably
Travis
half,
Kelsey.
probably
Half of the
half.
season? Well, there it
Like
is.
You
8.
think
He's probably gonna get 8.
Yeah,
you think Kelsey's playing? Oh, Rashee
No,
Rice.
no,
You
no,
mean?
no. Rashee Rice probably gonna
Okay.
get 8 game suspension.
yeah. So then, just by that, I don't think anyone else will command targets like Kelsey does. I know Hollywood Brown is interesting and all that, and I know he brought in a lot of other guys, but
Xavier Worthy.
Travis, yeah, fine, sure, but
Can we
listen,
stop talking about this guy?
but Travis Kelsey last year he had. I'm just bringing it up right now. Bear with me for a second. The
95
guy, like
catches.
93 catches, 121 targets. Like that's not moving around. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not as if like he's going like it's 10.5 yards per catch. The guy doesn't have a huge bunch of yardage. Patrick Mahomes goes to him. He's his safety blanket. He's gonna be looking at him when they want to create plays out of nowhere. I still think he has a very good shot of leading the team in targets and receptions. Not in receiving yards, a different conversation, but in receptions and targets, 100%.
Guys, we did say he had his fewest snaps in the last 3 years, correct? He still led the team in targets and he still led the team in yards. And he was only 2 touchdowns behind the team lead in touchdowns, which was Rashid Rice, with his fewest snaps. Like this guy is Mahomes' safety blanket. This guy is always going to look for him on third down when he needs that big play. It's always going to go to Travis Kelsey. Look, like you said, even with the uncertainty of Rice, obviously it's going to play more of a hand that he will get that target share. And yes, like you said, Fab, Hollywood Brown is there, but he's not the guy who's going to command 120 targets, right? Like he's just not going to unseat Kelsey target wise. Maybe he doesn't lead the team in receiving yards, but the targets, I still think he leads the team in targets without a doubt. And again, bringing up Xavier Worthy, we're talking about these wide receivers who are not going to come up and just smash. Like that's one of them. He's not going to come up and just smash and play at a high level right away.
Very briefly, both of you, are you taking Kelsey or Laporta?
Laporta.
I'm taking Laporta.
Very briefly, why?
There's just he's younger, he's got more upside. That offense is just like it's I feel like it's right now more explosive, to be honest with you, than the Chiefs. The Chiefs is more I feel like it became more of a boring offense if you know what I'm trying to like get at. Like
Yeah, yeah.
the Lions were just so much more energetic, so much more. Look, he's got the upside. He's younger, he's the new dog, he's the new guy on the block. So I think it's just, you know what though? From where he's being drafted, I think I'll wait and try to get Kelsey before I pay for Laporta though,
Hmm.
fantasy
Yeah,
wise.
Kelsey definitely has more value in that sense, and I agree. For me, it's a bit of an injury concern with Kelsey. I just feel like he's finally getting the wear and tear is finally catching on with him, and we saw him a little bit last year too, where he finally got injured. I just think I'd be surprised if he plays a full slate of games this year. That would be my thing.
Speaking of wear and tear and leg injuries, Aaron
Mhm.
Rodgers missed mandatory minicamp due to reasons that are still unclear. Is it news or noise for Rodgers' prospects as a high-end QB2 in fantasy? Nacc, you've been very outspoken in our group chats about the media and Aaron Rodgers. Would love to know your thoughts on this.
Look, a lot of people are going to think differently from me and they're going to say that it's news. I'm saying that it's noise. The only reason it's news is because Salah can't handle the media. The way he came out and said it and the way he portrays himself in the media, it's like Rogers betrayed them or whatever, but he botched the news conference. He completely botched the news conference and makes Aaron Rodgers look completely terrible. He's 40 years old. He's been in the league for 12 years. He was at every single voluntary workout and he missed 3 days of minicamp. Three. We're talking about 3 days of minicamp that to me, doesn't do anything. You know who else missed some minicamp? TJ Watt. Anyone talking about him in the media? Nope. No one batted an eye or said anything. He doesn't have the pedigree of the 12, 20-year vet that Rogers has either, right?
I have a question,
Yeah.
very serious question.
Sure.
Uh, what do you guys think he was actually doing?
Ooh, ooh, he was probably in his bunker looking at NASA satellites, wondering when the
Okay,
aliens are
okay.
coming.
God. Who knows, bro? It was they
No,
said
no,
it
Nat,
was a personal
real,
reason.
no,
I have
no,
no
real,
idea.
real
I have
guess.
no.
No, no, like
But
legit, like
what's the
legit.
real? Like I have
Yeah, like
no
legit.
idea, man. It was something. It was an event personal to him. Like
Ayahuasca,
who knows?
a
No, that
graduation.
he already did that. He did that with
How how
Jordan
long
Poyer in the summer.
how long was the mandatory minicamp? How many
Three
days did
days.
so
3
three?
days.
So he missed all 3 days consecutively?
Yes.
Do
But
you think? Do you guys?
he was at 2 weeks,
No, no, no.
2 weeks
I
full of
understand that.
voluntary.
Yeah,
He came to the
yeah.
voluntary
Do
one.
you
I
guys
understand
think?
that. I
Do
wouldn't be
you guys think
surprised if
he
he
was?
was doing this to prove a point as well. I wouldn't be surprised if
Nah,
this
you
is
see,
just
that's the
simply his
media
ego.
talking. That's the media
I don't
creating a
think so.
narrative. Yeah, that's
I don't think it's the media talking. We saw what happened with him on McAfee and all that stuff. The guy has an ego. The guy,
guys. I
and he's
hear
he's
everyone
allowed to
like
have one.
people are tired of Aaron Rodgers news. I get it, but it's not his
The guy
fault that
was
the
coming.
media has a hard on for this
Hold
guy.
on a
Like
second.
he
Hold on
can't
a second.
sneeze without people talking about it.
He does it to himself, though. He voluntarily goes on these talk shows. I'm referring to what he did with McAfee. I'm not referring to what he did now.
Okay,
He
guys, can we
voluntarily
turn
goes
the
on to
page
these.
on these
No, but
things?
hold on a second. He voluntarily goes on these talk shows, talks about how everything is going, and gives his opinion on so many things.
Well, because he goes
We
against the
can't
grain,
agree.
he's
Let me
allowed to go against the
let me
grain.
finish. Let me finish. We're allowed to assume
He was
that
with
he
Nacc.
likes being in the
Nacc, was he with?
spotlight.
Was he with you?
He
Seriously.
100% loves being in the
He was with
spotlight.
you.
We
He
can
wasn't me. He
assume
wasn't me. We were chilling
he
together.
likes going against the grain
He-
and telling everyone that he likes going against the grain.
He's
Can
in
Yeah,
we
but
Nacc's.
that's
not?
He's
fine.
in
Why
Nacc's
isn't he
Yeah,
world.
allowed
that's
to
all I'm
speak?
saying.
And why isn't he allowed to speak
But I'm
his
not
mind?
taking another side of it to say that it's wrong. I'm just advocating to the fact that he wants this. He wants what we're talking about. He wants people talking about right now. He likes this shit.
The
He's a
best.
bit of a deviant in that sense.
The
100%.
the best
That's my point of view. Right or wrong, for this football aspect, it's 100% noise. It's not going to make a difference. It won't. It won't make a difference on how he plays and all that stuff and everything. And I agree with you about the whole Robert Saleh thing, and he didn't organize it probably. Whatever. Who cares?
He's
But
dumb,
Aaron
bro.
Rodgers right now is fucking foaming at the mouth with this shit.
Hey,
He's loving
hey,
this.
hey. We said no f bombs.
Sorry.
The
He's
best
foam. I said no. I said we can say foam.
You said effing.
I said foaming at the mouth. Oh yeah, and I did. You're right. I apologize. Yes. Yes. You're right.
The
Sorry.
best comment I saw.
Sorry.
The best comment I saw. Someone was like, "Is Raining Man in June?"
Dude, I can't wait till this guy. I really hope he
Burning
lights it
Man,
up and
sorry,
shuts everyone up.
Burning Man,
I
not
really
Burning
hope.
Man.
Burning
I
Man in
really
June.
hope.
He looks like the guy that would go to Burning Man. No offense to the people that go to Burning Man. Like
My,
he looks like the guy that goes to Burning Man.
my
There's
good buddy
so many
James goes
instances
to
of
Burning
this
Man.
happening everywhere, and it just doesn't make
But
headlines. When
people
it's
going to
Aaron
Burning Man,
Rodgers, it's in New York.
I see it all the time. So horrible. Want to move on to the next topic?
So yeah, like QB2, we're good. Like no worries about drafting him otherwise.
0% worried.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. T. Higgins signed his franchise tender. I think it was today or a few days ago. Has that changed any of your outlooks on him going into the season, Fab?
I mean, I wasn't necessarily super high on him to begin with. He has that upside factor because I feel like it's a bit of a Joe Burrow revenge tour this year, just because of all the injury stuff that happened last year. So that could obviously play into T. Higgins having a decent season. Um, it does allow for some certainty for this year. There's none of those questions that might be around T. Higgins and all that. So like if you're drafting him, you can feel comfortable that this guy is going to play. So in that sense, I'm happy about it. I mean, listen, I hope the guy finds a spot where he's a little bit more appreciated necessarily, and maybe he does get that deal that he deserves. But it only provides me more optimism for the future with him for the season. Like if I'm looking at like a wide receiver 3 type spot for him, like I would feel a little more comfortable now that I did yesterday. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's an
Yeah.
interesting concept. That's an interesting point because I'm not super in love with him as a WR2, like even a high end WR2. Nacc, what do you think? Because here I'm trying to find it right now where he's going in
Well,
looks
He,
like
he was always he was always going to sign this tender. Like he has zero. The guy had zero leverage, right? Like, and he knows that Cincinnati can't afford to tag him next year because it's just going to be like astronomical, stupid number. Like he'll end up being paid over 30 million, I think, next year if he signs a tender. So look, for him, he knows he's with a good team. He knows he's got a good quarterback. He knows he could go out and ball this year and potentially get that long term deal. So for a fantasy aspect, I think you know uh, it does give him a boost because he's there. He's more motivated to do better. There is the injury concern that he's playing with, but again, that doesn't mean he's going to get injured and no one's going to sign him the next year. So look, I think he does rise a little bit in value, but like I said, Chase is the guy there, so he's still going to play second fiddle to him. I think it slightly raises his value.
Didn't they get rid of their third wide receiver?
Yeah, Boyd.
Tyler Boyd. Yeah,
Boyd.
he's with
Yeah,
Tennessee.
yeah. So I think that does play in a little bit more
Boyd
because
Boyd was Boyd was a bit on the downswing though, and
Yeah, he
I
yeah.
was.
think
He
I
was. He
I
wasn't
know
even
they
getting
really like
used
Boyd
really much.
only had value when Chase was out and everyone just moved up a spot in the pecking order, right? I don't like there could be some targets that are vacated from that. They could maybe go to T Higgins.
Higgins was hurt last year too. They had a little rotation of hurt
Yeah, no,
guys
last
last
year
year,
was a wash, right? I mean, last year
and then
nobody was really
Burrow.
healthy.
Obviously, Burrow got hurt too, so that didn't help
I
the
I'm
situation.
on ESPN PPR composite rankings. They have T Higgins 27th. He is above Neighbors, Tank Dell, Pickens, Keenan Allen, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, which that's one that hurts me a bit.
Yeah, it
I
seems
I
it
think he's
seems a
I think
bit
he's
high.
I
Seems
think
a
he's
bit high.
I personally think he's a bit overvalued because of the fact that Chase is there, and Chase Brown I think is going to command a lot of PPR targets in the backfield from the Bengals. So I'm glad he signed his tender at least because it was a long ongoing saga.
Yeah,
I'm hoping he
he
has
had
a big
no
season.
leverage. He had no leverage.
Yeah.
Exactly. He had no leverage.
Hey,
Uh,
it doesn't discount a trade though. Like he could still be traded technically. Like if they really want to, and someone because now the tender's signed, right? So that's out of the way. He could be
yeah,
traded without any problems now. So
yeah, for sure. Speaking of another wide receiver who was holding out, Brendan Ayuk had a video today where he was telling Jaden Daniels, 49ers don't want me back. Fab, how do you feel about drafting Ayuk before, or I should say, how do you feel about drafting Ayuk if this doesn't get settled before the draft period starts in fantasy?
I don't feel comfortable drafting him at all. And Like, first of all, okay, so apart from the whole fantasy football aspect, right? Like, the 49ers don't want him. Okay, cool. After that video came out, do you really think the 49ers are going to do whatever they can to get rid of? Like, they're going to trade him for pennies on the dollar. And it's such a bad look for him. I'm never a fan of that type of stuff. And I get like they want to get their bag and all that, but like I don't see this working out in Ayuk's favor in the future. And even Jaden
Why? Why?
Daniels, I just that type of publicity never shows a positive light on the individual who they are, in my opinion. And I don't think this is going to be good for him in the future. And maybe 49ers could end up just like keeping him and stashing him on the bench, not even starting him. Like they can make things very difficult for you if they wanted to. They probably won't. They'll end up trading him for some sort of value. But I feel like, how does this speak to your brand as a player to other 31 teams out there that want you? My opinion. Obviously, I'm not in the rooms. I don't know what's going on, whatever. From a fantasy standpoint, no, I'm not touching Ayuk until he gets traded to another team and he knows for sure where he's going and there is conversation. Listen, if he goes to Washington, because I know there's a relationship there with Jaden Daniels, that could be super interesting and make life a lot easier for Jaden Daniels too. So that relationship could be very good. But as of right now, with I'm not touching Ayuk at all.
Nacc?
But question for you. You're saying like you don't like the media outbursts, whatever. If CD Lamb does this or Justin Jefferson does this, you're not trading for a guy like Justin Jefferson or CD Lamb? If
Prior
they
to
if
a
they if they if,
conversation,
if they do something
Ayuk
like
had a
this and they're
fantastic
not
season. I'm
getting
not
what he
saying
wants. No, but
I'm not
I'm asking
saying
you
that
that.
he wouldn't be traded for. I'm saying it's a negative light on him. It's bad for his image, and it would still be bad for Justin Jefferson's image and CeeDee Lamb's image.
So I'm going to look at it the other way on how it will help him. The 49ers are offering him $26 million a year to play for the 49ers. Debo Samuel apparently had a clause in his contract where his salary goes up with the percentage of salary cap. So his salary went from 22 million a year to $28 million a year. And so Waddle just got what, $28 million, 28 something. He's the number two in Miami. Ayuk is clear cut number one in San Fran. So you're telling me a guy like him, like the 49ers trying to shortchange him and not getting that 30 million. Like Ayuk is a $30 million receiver in today's market. I think we could all agree on that. Like 76 catches, 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think guys, like for sure he's a great talent, and I think to Fab's point, I don't mind when players, like I'm all for players getting their bag, and I'm all for players even voicing themselves and holding out. But this is just weird. Like, why are you taking the video? Why are you having your I don't know if it's girlfriend or whoever it is filming him and then posting that? Like, it's just like I'm fine with everything else he's done to try to get his contract.
Well, I haven't heard of anything else apart from this. This is the first
No,
news
but
that
there's
really
always
popped in my
there's always
screen.
something. There's like the Instagram. There's like the weird Instagram like cryptic messages. Like it's just constant. Like at some point, and knowing the way the 49ers, not that I know them, but I feel like the 49ers are a very clean cut organization. They don't like all this baggage being surrounded about them. This is completely separate from the fact that I want Ayuk to be paid. I think he's a very easily top eight wide receiver. But back to the original point, I am not touching him. Like, don't draft this guy right now unless you get a crazy value like fifth, sixth
Yeah,
round.
Yeah, but it's just
Because
it's hard to have
yeah.
that argument right now because like as we speak right now, yeah, it's easy to say don't draft him, right? Like the situation hasn't played out. Now there's still like training camp starts at end of July. Like, is he going to hold out from training camp? Is he going to be a hold in? Like now players are starting to do. Like they'll just show up so they don't get fined, but they'll do stuff, on the side, and teams will be okay with that depending on what player it is. Like I remember. Like T.J. Watt did that. Deontay Johnson did that. Like there was hold ins instead of like holdouts basically, so you're not losing money and you're not losing whatever. But I still think that the 49ers messed up mostly the situation. Now yes, I kind of agree to your point where you shouldn't be acting out like a baby like he is, but I think now to Fab's point, you're going to get more pennies on the dollar for this guy when you could have probably got more at the draft. And they said that they probably, they had deals on the table with, I think they said Jacksonville and Pittsburgh, where there was deals kind of on the table ready to go, and they probably could have got more in that light. And now they're kind of stuck with a bit of a mess because they're not going to pay this guy $30 million a year.
Is he under contract for this season?
He's on his fifth year. This is his fifth year,
and they
making 14 million.
and they took the 50-year option, so he has to
This
play.
is the fifth year option.
This is for the option, and he has to play unless he holds
Yeah,
out
yeah.
on his own accord,
Yeah,
like what
let's see how
Le'Veon
long.
Bell did and all that stuff. Like
Yeah, but Bell wasn't under contract. This guy
okay,
is under contract, so he would just get like fined, right? Like he has to
okay.
be there on like at training camp and stuff. That's where the fines start happening. I think he wasn't there for mandatory minicamp, so he was subjected to fines for that as well.
All I'm saying is this feels
Like
very much like Josh Jacobs last year, and we know how that ended. It was a very treacherous season for him. Came in out of shape, came in really late. I still picked
Yeah,
him in two leagues in the first round, and I know it's only June, but July training camp comes really quickly. And if this is still ongoing and if this is still lingering, I have a hard time thinking that he's going to be there day one of training camp. And if this starts lingering closer to draft period, I would
no,
I would avoid him.
it's
then
gonna
when you
tank
get
his
that's when you
value
get your
for sure.
concern. That's where
It's
you'll
gonna tank
have the
his value
concern
for
for
sure.
sure. Then I'm not picking him as a top 8 wide receiver,
Yeah.
100%. There's no way.
All right, mock draft time. So what we did here was we used the Fabulous Sleeper app. We put two QB settings for the mock draft. We, as mentioned, mimicked our Bush League rankings or Bush League draft order. So Nacc had the first overall pick, Fab had the sixth overall pick, and I had the eighth overall pick. Nacc, who did you take first?
I took my favorite player in the whole wide world, Josh Allen.
So yeah, like I think for a lot of people, two QB leagues is the consensus number one.
Yeah, it's really no
Yeah,
brainer.
No consensus
He's led
number one.
he's led the fantasy in the last 2 years. I think all the fantasy.
Yeah.
He's been the first player. I think 3 out of the last 4 years, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Yes. Well, he had a monster like almost I think 430 points last year. So I think whether it's two QB, whether it's standard, he's going as number one QB. McCaffrey went second, Mahomes third, Hurts fourth, CeeDee Lamb fifth. Fab, you took Justin Jefferson as your first wide receiver. Why did you take
yeah.
Jefferson over a QB, and why Jefferson as a wide receiver?
It's a PPR league. He's such a fantastic player. The guy's QB proof. He's going to eat no matter what. I was looking at the other quarterbacks that followed. Um, like Lamar Jackson, obviously at 6 is a good spot there. Joe Burrow should be good at 6 too, but there's that injury concern. And then everybody else, I really wanted to hit on my wide receiver at that spot. And I wanted to get my hero wide receiver, especially in a PPR league. I know we're 2 QB league, but Justin Jefferson for me was someone that I was really, really excited to have on my team. It was between him and Tyreek Hill, to be honest, but the PPR
Okay,
upside with Justin
so
Jefferson
so
really got
Fab,
to
you
me.
were taking wide receiver regardless
Yeah, at that
at this
spot I was taking
position.
wide receiver regardless. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
At that spot, the top 3 QBs are already gone. McCaffrey is gone. CeeDee Lamb is gone. Like, yeah,
Very interesting. So I went with Chase with the eighth pick as my first rounder. I'm of the
And Lamar was drafted right before you.
and yeah, exactly. So yeah, I was about to mention that Jackson was drafted right before. My draft strategy is push QB as late as possible and try to really secure, similar to Fab, either the top end wide receiver or top end running back. For me, Chase, I had mentioned in our group chat that I think there's an extra level to him. I find he's a bit overrated where he hasn't reached Jefferson, Hill, or Lamb type seasons, but if Burrow is healthy, if he is healthy, and those are two big ifs, I think he has a monster season. So I'm banking on those two things happening. Choosing Chase over Hill, who went ninth right after. But I think those are the kind of the cream of the crop top three wide receivers that are or top four wide receivers that are pretty interchangeable. But I think
yeah.
Chase probably goes last. Nacc, you took Garrett Wilson with your second pick.
Yeah. So players like Amon Ra, Brees Hall, Bijan, they were all taken ahead. There was a surprise pick of Harrison a couple picks before me, which was a little bit surprising. But as I've mentioned before, I think with a healthy Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson has the season of his career to date. So I think at that 11th spot, it was a no-brainer.
Nacc, you missed an opportunity. Like you didn't think of maybe getting Anthony Richardson, who was picked right after Garrett Wilson. That would have been nuts
No,
for
no, he
your
was picked
team.
right before me.
Oh, excuse me, before. Yeah, sorry. Having a hard time reading the snake draft.
Yeah. He was picked
Um,
right before me. Like,
yeah,
look, I could have then I could have decided to maybe go like Dak or Jordan Love or something like that. But I decided, let me shore up the wide receiver. Like, to me, that has potential to be top five guy in the league this year with
yeah.
Aaron Rodgers. So I wanted to make sure to get him there. And then on the turn, obviously getting the back to back
Wait,
pick.
hold on, wait. We have Fab. Fab, he took Bijan with the second.
Yeah, on the way back, yes, I took Bijan with my second pick,
And you took Brees Hall.
and Roger took Brees Hall
Yeah,
before me, right? Yeah, I don't think I need to say more about Bijan than what I've already said. I'm pretty high on the guy this year. I was high on him last year, and he bummed out, but now everything is the opportunity is definitely there. He is firmly entrenched as my running back three in my own personal rankings. I like Brees Hall just a bit more, just because he showed me something already. But Bijan Robinson can be super special this year, and I'm super high on him. And it's another one of those guys we've spoken about. Like the backfield is his, nobody else's, right? Like it's going to be, especially this year. So
yeah. Th-
I'm super high on that. So yeah,
that was the reasoning for me. Just Brees Hall showed a little bit more, less competition. The Tyler Algier aspect still scares me a little bit, even though Arthur Smith
agreed.
isn't there.
Yeah,
But I think either way, you can't go wrong with Brees Hall
no,
or or Bijan Robinson.
Yeah. So then, like I said, on the turn, I had choice of maybe going Sam Laporta, but I just didn't want to go tight end that high. I could have easily gone another QB as well to shore it up. And then I was looking at Olave and Adams in that spot as well. I just uncertainties at QBs just scared me a little bit to go to take that jump. So I went um, Saquon Barkley. I think poised to have a really good year in Philly.
Fab, you agree? As a Giants fan, do you think Barkley's going to have that big of a year?
I think he's put in a very good opportunity and situation to have a very good year. Yes, I do. I think with the offensive line, even though they lost Jason Kelsey, and I mentioned this before, right? I mean, and I harbor no ill will towards Barkley. I want to be clear on that. We did everything we could to keep him, and he wanted to get some money elsewhere, and that's fine. But yeah, like I think he has a good opportunity to have a very good season. Dis, despite the fact that they lost Jason Kelsey, but that offensive line is still better. That offense in general is better. He is a very good weapon. Less yards, more yards before contact in that offense with the Giants, obviously. So yeah, that is a. He was running back
5.
1-5 coming off the board. I'm good with that. You can argue between him and Jonathan Taylor at that spot, but
I
yeah,
agree.
yeah,
I agree. I wouldn't argue anyone else between other than Barkley or Taylor.
yeah.
Williams and
I think
Etienne
that's
are a
I think
tier
that's
down.
preference at that point.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's
for sure,
preference. So
for
yeah,
sure.
that, no, that makes sense for me.
I want to stick with you, Fab. What went into your decision to take Love over? Oh no, so sorry. So Prescott was taken before.
Yeah,
So why Jordan Love at that spot?
that's such a value pick for me. Right in the third round over there, this guy has chance for really a top five upside in the league this year. He finished the year last year on fire. He was firmly putting up QB1 numbers, and even towards the end of the season, he was putting up some banger 20-point games, 25-point games, like really stuff that you want on a week-to-week basis.
Mm.
And you really see him. I think you really saw him come into his own in the playoffs too, and hopefully that just continues and rolls into the regular season. In my second pick, when I took Bijan, I was debating between taking Dak at that spot, but then I'm like, okay, Jordan Love is still there. Some other guys still there. There's some value there, so let me take my hero RB in my second pick, and then luckily I got Jordan Love at the third round. Yeah, it's a monster. I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, so I took Olave with at 8 in the third round. Took him over Devonte Adams. Probably not now in retrospect. Could have maybe taken Drake London as well. There was Diggs who was around that area as well. So the way I'm thinking of is I went wide receiver, running back, wide receiver, and then running back afterwards. I definitely wanted to get a wide receiver on my third pick. I got too much PTSD from SZN Diggs last year, and I think there's just too many mouths to feed. Olave, I like what you said, Fab, last week about Clint Kubiak. I think he's going to be a big benefactor. As much as I don't like Derek Carr, I think a new offensive coordinator in a Shanahan-like system will help Olave, and he's a really, really good player.
Yeah.
And I think that Devontae Adams, like, I love the guy. I really love the guy, but I'm a bit concerned getting a little bit older and uncertainty at the QB position.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting pick when he took Olave instead of Adams, considering that you have such a fond opinion of Derek Carr.
Yeah, I think it's just more the offensive infrastructure
Yeah,
this year with Kubiak, and I like what you said last week
I
about
think he's gonna have a decent season for if we're talking about from a two QB standpoint. Like, I think he's not gonna listen. He's not my go-to QB2, but you know, you could do. I think you could do worse than him this year.
Yeah, and then on the turn, Josh Jacobs for me. I think now he's gonna have a full training camp. He's gonna be with the Packers. He's firmly entrenched as the running back one, despite Marshawn Lloyd, who a lot of people did like out of USC. I felt that was a good value pick in the fourth round. Took him ahead of Derrick Henry, who we talked about last week. Doesn't play on third downs. Almost 30 years, or is 30 years old right now. So felt like Josh Jacobs was a good pick there.
Yeah, and he went. ATN was picked before him, which I disagree with as well. I would have definitely gone Josh Jacobs
Etienne scares
before Etienne. Yeah,
Etienne
it's
scares me
not.
with the short, very not very good on short yardage. Tank even Doug Peterson said Tank Bigsby is going to get a few more looks
Yeah,
this year as
Yeah.
well. And then Fab, you went with Brock Purdy in the fourth.
He finished QB6 last year, and I got him in the fourth round. That's money. That is such value right there. I don't think I need to say much more than that. I was very surprised he was still there. I think a lot of people still sleep on Brock Purdy as a viable fantasy quarterback, especially when you look at the big names that go before him. Yeah, they're super exciting, but I think Mr. Steady Eddie Brock Purdy, I think it's going to put up some very solid numbers on a week in, week out basis, and he's my QB2. Yeah, sign me up.
and we're
I'm good.
not worried, right? That maybe he doesn't have Ayuk there week one.
No, I'm not worried. They're going to manufacture something.
Yeah,
It's a good
Eh,
point. It's a very good point. But I think that what Ricky Purcell's right. He's
yeah.
I'm
gonna
It
a bit.
pop
depends.
right in and take all those
I'd
targets that would have got
Yeah,
a Brandon
look.
Ayuk.
No, so I would be a bit worried because Purdy doesn't throw the best ball. There was a lot of throws that he got bailed out last year. Like a lot of throws where they could have easily been interceptions, but Ayuk absolutely bailed him out. Like he has this crazy catch radius. So I think to Nacc's point, I think he has a point where there could be some slight regression if Ayuk isn't there with regards to Purdy. That's something I think that's a good point. I would be weary of with regards to Purdy. Nacc, you had Nico in your fourth
yeah.
round.
Another guy I think is has poised to break out even more than he did last year his breakout season, and I think sky's the limit for him. I know that Stephon Diggs is now there in Texas, but um, we did see, he's a little bit more on the decline, and I think Nico is more. I think he's got more potential, if I have to say. Like Stephon Diggs is kind of on the end of his career, and Nico Collins at the beginning. So I think he's going to command the ball, and then like maybe Diggs starts at the beginning to try to get the ball. But I think he's just too talented to not put the ball in his hands. So I think another big year for Nico Collins. So I take him there over likes of DJ Moore, Waddle, um, other names that like Metcalf or something. I was just very happy with Nico Collins there.
Moore is Collins and Moore I find is a tough one. I think over Waddle that's easy. I
Yeah,
really like DJ Moore. Like I'm a big fan of his because he's like one of those 3 level types of wide receivers. But I think you
Hmm.
made a good call there.
I think the DJ Moore and Keenan Allen scenario is very similar to Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins scenario. I think
Hmm.
those sets of wide receivers are gonna like everyone's super high on Moore and Collins like for the because they're still young and everything, and there's a lot of positive trajectory. And then you have these very seasoned veterans who can still prove that they still have it come into the locker room and you know caused a little bit of some speed bumps there for Collins and more. And I think like, I like Collins a lot. I had him last year on my team. I'm
He's
not
a fun player.
I'm not zoning into him though as much this year because I don't know what's going to happen with Stephon Diggs being there. And that's same thing with me and DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. Like I need to see more before I know who I'm picking.
So you went with Waddle, Fab?
Yeah, I went with Waddle as my wide receiver
Well,
too. I was just
but
looking at
we bypassed the second pick here.
Oh,
oh yeah,
Rogers.
sorry.
Aaron
Yeah, Aaron
Rodgers. Yeah,
Rodgers. Yes.
Yeah, on the turn I took Rogers to shore up my two QB, my second QB. I also paired him with obviously Garrett Wilson, who I picked in the second round. So yeah, again, I think big years to come in New York if Rogers can stay healthy. So I picked him ahead of some notable names like Herbert, Kyler Murray, even like Goff and Trevor Lawrence. So definitely much super comfortable with Rogers in that spot.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
yep.
He's still a dog. Now, Fab, yeah, you took Waddle at with the fifth round with your fifth round pick.
Yeah, I think he's a proven wide receiver too, year in year out, right? I mean, Tua definitely loves to throw the ball, and there's a lot of space that's made available with Tyreek Hill on the other side over there. That guy's a burner. He's a great wide receiver. So yeah, it was an easy call for me. And plus, looking at what was available left at the wide receiver spot, I was hesitant on Waddle over Cup. Cup was the only guy that I was looking at that spot either, because again, there's a good value there in the fifth round. But ultimately, I went for Waddle. I went for the younger guy over there. That's it. But like there were some. It was a harder spot than I wanted it to be because there's some really good value there in a lot of different spots. Like DK Metcalf was there still as well, and there's obviously.
And
Uh,
Waddle's got that like injury concern too, like they had last year.
but
Little
yeah,
things. He
And he's
always
and
comes
he's
off the
slight.
field.
And he's slight.
that
Yeah,
was yeah. Oh,
I
that
feel
was
like he's got a
anyways.
little bit of an injury concern.
So
Last year he
so
had a bit
this
of
is
trouble.
this is the area at wide receiver where I find a lot of the guys are the very similar, like in terms of their stats, in terms of like
Yeah,
their WR2. Like you could go Waddle. I personally like, and I think teach their own. I would have probably gone Metcalf. Cup injury concerns scare me. Allen's age scares me, and he's always injured. But I probably would have gone at least Metcalf, Cooper. Um, Probably at
Cooper
that.
was a great spot at that. A great pick at that spot.
Yeah, Cooper was a really good pick at that spot. I went Justin Herbert, so I finally got a QB off the board. I figure take the most talented guy that's left. Herbert is considered by most metrics, by most analysts, a top 5 QB. Yes, he's in more of a run heavy offense this year, but I think he's going to be more efficient. I think Harbaugh is going to put him in more winning situations. I don't see him. I don't necessarily see the passing yards being high, but I could still see the touchdowns being in a good spot, and he still runs the ball a decent amount of time. So for me, it was an easy decision over Kyler Murray, who's has injury concerns. Trevor Lawrence, who's iffy. Goff, who I had last year, but kind of wanted something different, and Tua, who's also injured as well. I debated between him and Caleb Williams to be honest.
hmm.
And then on the turn, I finally took my tight end, Evan Ingram. I think he was absolutely fantastic last year. Getting him at in the sixth round to me is amazing value over the likes of Kincaid, Pitts, who's untouchable for me, and Kittle, who just overall probably the best tight end in terms of just overall
Yeah.
completeness. But it feels like he's kind of an afterthought in that offense. So I think Ingram
There's
has
a
a good
lot of mouths to feed over there.
that yeah
It doesn't help.
yeah. So if you're thinking of a tight end, around that range, Ingram is I think going to be the number one guy. A crazy athlete, and he's only getting better. Fab, you had Mr. Alvin Kamara with your pick in the sixth round.
Kamara.
That was another no-brainer for me. The guy finished as a top 10 running back last year, even with all those games that he missed.
My boy.
Yeah, he was fantastic. And then you assume he's going to have a full slate of games. And then talk about what we spoke about just earlier, Raj, with the new offensive coordinator. Yeah, it's a guy whose backfield is his. He's the guy over there, and you get him all the way in the sixth round. I was looking at guys
Well,
like
they have that rookie that they drafted last
Kendra
year.
Miller.
he's still there.
Kendrick
Yeah.
Miller. Yeah.
But,
And they still have Jamal.
Jamal
Jamal
Williams.
Williams. Yeah.
Again, so yeah, so I'm not really concerned.
Is
But
Taysom Hill still there?
Yeah.
That's what I
yeah,
would be concerned about.
it's a PPR league though.
Yeah, and
It's a PPR league.
he did steal a lot of touchdowns last
Yeah,
year, let me tell you.
And
yeah,
despite all that, he finished as a top 10 running back.
yeah.
So you guys are proving my points
Yeah,
here.
no, no,
And
he had a good year. He had a good year
like
last year.
I have a lot less concerns than I did previous years about Kamara because I thought at one
There's a
point
lot
he was
of
going to be
injuries
dropping off.
last year. A
Yeah,
lot of injuries last year.
but I was looking at what was available, and like he has the highest upside in my opinion. I like Joe Mixon in Houston.
Oh,
He's another guy there. No, but just
I'm
like
done on Joe Mixon, man.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
uh,
for me. I'm
totally
out on
done.
Joe Mixon for sure.
for where you're drafting, you want to get value. He's the guy over there, like it or not. I think there's something to be said about that. I'm not as high as Ramondre Stevenson as you guys are, but I thought I liked Kamara at that spot. I think it gives me the highest upside for a very very low investment at wide receiver. He's my sorry, at running back. He's my running back too.
Yeah, I love that pick, and I think he will. I think he'll actually increase his yards per catch with the offense they're in. It's going to be less of those
Yeah,
shitty checkdowns. Oops, excuse my language. Less of those like weak checkdowns and more downfield. He'll probably run some more routes this year. Nacc, no surprise, you took George
Cooper
Pickens.
Cup. Cooper Cup.
Cooper Cup, excuse me. Yeah,
Yeah, when Cooper Cup, he's still on the board in round 6, so I thought it was crazy value. They're still going to throw the ball. It's still a big part of that offense. I know that Nakua goes, really, really high. He was in the second round, but gonna be hard to replicate the year he had last year. And I think, like I said, Cooper Cup's not going away, so I think I had great value. And then right behind him in the 7th round, start of the 7th, I did take George Pickens, who's the unquestioned number 1 in Pittsburgh. A lot's going to depend on QB play, but I figured in the 7th round, actual wide receiver ones on the team are hard to find that late. So I thought value was great there, so I snagged him.
yeah. I love those, and Cup there is just amazing value. If he stays healthy, he still can easily be top 5 wide receiver from a
yeah,
fantasy perspective, very easily. Fab, you went with
your boy,
my arch nemesis, Cal Pitts.
your
So
boy.
so it's interesting. I like what you did taking a tight end because I really like Zay Flowers in the spot that was taken 2 spots before, but
Yeah,
you were able to get Terry McLaurin right after, and I think that's
yeah,
pointing to the fact that there's a lot of wide receivers that are still in that same vicinity. But
yeah.
why Pitts over Kittle? Just
The upside. I was chasing the upside on my tight end. The guy has a chance of being a top 5 tight end. And you hit on a lot of things mentioned before with Kittle about how there's a lot of mouths to feed and all that
Rogers'
stuff.
face is
And
priceless.
I think that Kyle Pitts, and we all know how much Kirk Cousins loves his tight ends. Pause. You know how much he loves them. So it's just he does feed the tight ends often, early and often. So I think that's going to help Kyle Pitts ultimately. And I don't think that we're going to be looking at a scenario where Kyle Pitts will be having a horrible season like he did last year. So that was my reasoning behind it. And again, you look at the value versus the upside because a lot of these later round picks are the picks that are going to win you your league ultimately. And I think Kyle Pitts in the 7th round for a tight end has some league winning upside, my opinion. So that's why I picked him there. And to be honest, even if Dalton Kincaid was there, I think I still would have gone Kyle Pitts.
Kincaid is with Dawson Knox. It's a lot of two tight end sets.
Exactly.
So look, I think your reasoning is sound, but I think for me, I'm just too scarred for
You've
Kittle.
been scarred, and I understand that, but it's okay. Come on this side after. We'll give you some nice hugs after Kyle Pitts does all well and everything.
For me, I went with Aaron Jones. To me, this was I think a very good value pick. Again, a lot of these guys were saying like if they're healthy. But Aaron Jones last year, like when he was healthy, and it wasn't often,
Balled
he
out.
was amazing with the
Balled
Packers.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely amazing with the Packers. I think they're gonna rely on him a bit more with Minnesota, whether it's with JJ McCarthy or Sam Darnold. I think they're going to rely on the running game, and either way, man, the guy knows how to catch the ball in the backfield. Like he is as dual threat as they come, and so if he could even come close to replicating that near All Pro, or if it was All Pro season that he had a few years ago with the Packers, I think that's amazing, amazing value. And then on the turn, we talked about him. I took T. Higgins. I think this is good value here. He ends up being my WR3. Yes, I did pair him with Jamar Chase. I know it's a bit risky, but they've been 1,000 yard guys, and I felt like here,
You really couldn't take Terry McLaurin there, eh?
I
You
couldn't,
just couldn't do it. You
so
just
look,
couldn't do it.
I
I was
couldn't
so
take,
happy when he came.
I took it, I couldn't take Terry McLaurin, and then at that point, like Hollywood Brown, Chris Godwin, like
There's Calvin Ridley too that
Calvin,
was
yeah,
there.
like
Yeah.
it gets to a point where like, you know what, I'm okay. I'm okay with Higgins there. I know it's like it's two wide receivers from the same team, but I'm okay with that there. And again, as a WR3, I think it's I think that's the right value for him versus
For sure.
as a WR2.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at WR3, when you have Chase, like that means you're starting this guy. You're starting both of them every single week. Like you're almost forced to start both of them every single week.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
Okay. I personally wouldn't.
I mean, it's not ideal. I get what Nacc is saying, but I think the value of Higgins in that far late though too, and like what was around
Yeah,
him at that spot, like he was probably the safest
I've
pick
seen it.
Well,
I've
there.
seen him in.
I probably would have gone Terry McLaurin. At
I've
least you have
Well,
the wide
I would have
receiver
as
one,
well.
right?
I
Like
would,
you
but
have the wide
I'm
receiver one on a team, right?
putting my mind in a
Better
Roger
QB
doesn't like
play.
so
McLaurin.
I
You
think
just couldn't do
this
McLaurin. You
messes
just
me up in buys for sure, but I think this also easy trade candidate. Like this is a guy I could easily trade. Like I think I was seeing him go in mocks like fifth round, like in standard leagues,
hmm
Yeah, that's
non
early.
QB.
Yeah, but you're saying trade. So you're thinking your thinking is trade T Higgins, and you're getting more. You're going to get someone in return better than a Terry McLaurin as a wide receiver.
I'm not taking him at that position thinking I'm gonna trade him, but if I need to trade him, like
Okay.
I think there's enough there where like Chase and him have had 1,000 yard seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
a body of work that exists.
Yeah,
That's why I don't think it's a bad pick there.
yeah,
It's just unfortunate that you had Chase as well.
yeah.
But at the same time, speaking from my opinion, I would only take McLaurin instead of Higgins at that spot with what's left available.
And just lastly, like there was a Dunze, but like that's even a worse situation where
100%.
he's a number three. He's clear number three behind Allen and Moore.
Listen, Joe Burrow can throw for 5,000 yards in the NFL. We don't know if Caleb Williams can do that yet, especially not his rookie
Yeah. With
season.
Joe Burrow with that arm injury, I don't think he's ever throwing for 5,000 yards.
Right, but the potential is there. Whereas Caleb Williams, I don't think it's even an option, especially in his rookie season right now. The guy has to support three other wide receivers. Like I don't see how that's a bad spot taking Higgins over Dunze there.
Oh, Dunze for sure. I'll
But
take him
yeah,
over at Dunze 100%.
Fab, you took McLaurin. We talked about it. We talked about it a little bit. You took McLaurin, so you were
hundred
happy with that.
percent. Lunch pail guy, let's do it. He's going to get those 1,000 yard seasons, no problem. I only hope that he builds a strong rapport with his new quarterback. But apart from that, he's going to give you solid wide receiver three numbers on a week in week out basis. And again, from what I just mentioned before, like I was chasing the upside with some other guys. Here I want to get my solid floor with McLaurin. So yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
then
then
Nat, go ahead.
yeah, so I went end of the round. I picked end of round 8 was Najee Harris, Arthur Smith running offense. They declined his option, so he's essentially playing on a 1 year deal as well. They're going to run the ball. They're probably going to run the the wheels off this guy. So I think in round 8 that was severely high value. Three straight 1,000 yard years for Najee Harris. Finished the year strong last year. So for sure, he's going to share the backfield a bit with Warren, but I think the metrics are in place for him to have a pretty solid season.
Yeah, so we just wanted to kind of do an overview of the first 8 rounds. Obviously, we could go all the way to round 16, but that would be at some point it becomes a bit redundant. Didn't want to mention just a few other picks, though. Very very rapid fire. I love Nacc, Jackson Smith and Jigba at round 11, Christian Watson round 13. I think those are really really good picks. I've heard a lot of good things about JSN so far in camp, and even Fab Zamir White. I think that's such a sneaky pick at round 9. He has no competition this
Zero.
year. With
Zero.
zero competition. So I think that's a really good one. And you
Yeah.
took Mostert around after. And for myself, I finally end up getting my second QB Stafford in round 10. So I'm super happy getting Stafford and Herbert.
Great value pick.
So for there, and then I even got Geno Smith round 14. So that kind of rounds out my QB room. So hope you had fun listening to our first V1 mock draft. Plan on seeing if we do some other ones. The goal is kind of to give you guys a perspective on what are some of the tough decisions you have to make when you're drafting. And I know we're all chomping at the bit to get to draft season. We're only in June. The summer is beautiful. It's nice. We're able to get outside. But once that draft season rolls around, I know we're all going to be super excited. So on behalf of Fab, Nacc, I am Raj, and looking forward to seeing you guys next time. Of course, you could follow us on Instagram, on Spotify, on Twitter, YouTube, at the Bush League Huddle, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
Peace out.
God save our precious queen. God
This is the episode I can't
save
swear.
our
This is the episode I
Precious
can't
king.